Hey friends, I just wanted to say that I'm really sorry for this review being so extremely late. I have been busy with in real life stuff, and so having said that, I just wanted to say that y'all are finally going to be hearing my thoughts on the newest Smurfs movie from Paramount. And even what I thought about it. So, first things first is that I honestly think that people really owe the live action Smurfs movie from 2011 and its sequel to Smurfs 2 an apology. And in all honesty, I think that those were actually really good. And I loved watching those and enjoyed watching them when I first saw them whenever I was younger. I think I was 10 and 11 years old, 10 and 12 years old when I first saw them. And I honestly think those were really entertaining, and they were actually filled with a lot of heart. And so one of the best things about the 2011 Smurfs is that it was a love letter to the character Clumsy. You know, it actually was a love letter to the character Clumsy Smurf. And I really loved his character arc in that film. And another thing is that one of my favorite things about that version was the voice acting performance by the late actor Anton Yelchin in the role of Clumsy. And he actually brought Clumsy Smurf to life. He did a really great job with the character, and I loved the direction he took the character in his performance in that film. And my favorite thing in that film is that people honestly doubted Clumsy. They also didn't believe in Clumsy. And there were times when they even thought the worst about him, and we really see that in that film. And his story is about finally getting the recognition and the love that he deserves, and how he realizes that he should love himself, and that people should love him even during the hard times that he experiences in his life. And I honestly loved that about that film. So the other thing is that I actually loved another thing I loved about the 2011 film is that it told a story about fatherhood with Neil Patrick Harris and Papa Smurf. I mean, there were scenes where they bonded and they had these heart-to-heart talks about fatherhood and being afraid of being a dad and what it means to be a dad. You know, it had heart. And I know those movies are not perfect. Believe me, I know they're not perfect. But those were actually ones that I had a soft spot for, and I actually really enjoyed those. And there's times where we watch a film and it's oh so bad they're good. And there's a few films that I feel that way about. And those two were some of those in that category for me, as well as Fantastic Four from 2005 and Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. And I really loved both of those. I'm going to be doing a separate episode about what I love about the Fantastic Four, and even why I love the Fantastic Four later on, whenever I have the time to. But in all honesty, I just really loved those as a kid, and I still do enjoy them. You know, there's times where I just want to watch a movie that's for fun, and I just want to sit down and have fun watching a movie. And I think we all just like to watch a film for fun, you know, like to escape reality. And there's times where animated films do that for us. There's times where even Disney movies do that for us, you know, or action films, you know. But the other thing is that I think that the Smurfs from 2011 and the Smurfs 2, they had a better storyline, and the story wasn't a mess that was like all over the place. It actually had a heart, and it was fun. I can say that the biggest flaw with the Smurfs from 2025 is that this one didn't even have a story and stuck with it. And the Smurfs 2025 was put in Gargamel's cauldron, and it had exploded all over the place. And whenever I was watching this version of the Smurfs, it got worse and worse as it continued. You'd think it would get better, but it just doesn't. It's not a Smurf-azing good time. It's smurfingly bad, deplorable, horrendous. When you see the Smurfs singing the la 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 la, sing a happy song, la 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 la, Smurf the whole day long. I actually was reminded of the original animated series. And then we're introduced to Papa Smurf spinning a record and going, "Queeky, queeky, queeky, queeky." I was just about done then and there. That is not Papa Smurf. Let me tell you, I have never seen an episode of the Smurfs where Papa Smurf would do a record and he would go, "Queeky, queeky, queeky, queeky." That is not Papa. That's not Papa. And the other thing is that this film didn't feel true to the heart of the Smurfs at all. You know, it was a film that wanted to make it modern and have a modern edge. However, the way that they went about it and making it modern, it was smurfing awful. A smurf-aster, if you will. And I just wanted to address the elephant in the room. I remember seeing the trailer and thinking, oh my gosh, this looks really extremely awful, horrendous. And whenever the trailer came on in the theater, whenever I would be going to the movies, I would be playing on my phone, not wanting to look at it. I did not want to see that trailer. And the worst thing about that trailer was Influencer Smurf. Oh gosh. Every time I saw that trailer on the big screen and I saw Influencer Smurf, I would be wincing in agony. I would be wincing in agony. And I can say for my viewers, Influencer Smurf wasn't in the film. Thank the Smurf. Thank the Smurf that Influencer Smurf wasn't in this film. And it was, and like every time he showed up on screen in that trailer, it was a cringe fest. Okay? And all I can say is, thank the Smurf berries. He wasn't in the final product. In this version, there were like newer characters, and I don't remember all of the new characters that we got. But I do remember Sound Effect Smurf, No Name Smurf, Calendar Smurf. I forgot the rest. I do remember though that we did have a character named Ken, who was Papa Smurf's brother. And the other thing is that some of these newer characters you kind of like, but they just didn't have any moment to shine, like in the original animated TV series. They didn't have their own moments to shine, like when you just feel like this is the Smurfs, or this is why we love the Smurfs, you know, or like, oh, I love this character, you know. These characters didn't really have a moment of development or even a moment to shine. And I have to say that I did like the effects from Sound Effects Smurf at different times in the film. I did like that. But, like, in this film, the character development was extremely, extremely bad. And the story was awful. Like, the way this version of the Smurfs progressed as it continued, it kept getting worse and worse. So, one thing I would like to ask my listeners is, have you ever watched a movie And it gets worse and worse as it continues, like it just doesn't get better as you're watching it. I think all of us have watched a movie like that before. The story felt like a sloppy Smurf stew. It was a ginormous Smurfy mess. The character development wasn't even there. Even some of the characters didn't progress and grow. In the original animated TV show that was done in the 1980s, the plot was actually decent. The characters each grew even in a short amount of time. In the movie from 2011, Clumsy had the biggest development as a character, and this was the story. Though I have to say it was also Neil Patrick Harris's character story, and he grew into someone that knew what being a father was through Papa Smurf. I even enjoyed the characters in the Smurfs 2 and Smurfette and how they paid a homage to an episode in the original TV show about Smurfette's origins and being made by Gargamel. I really loved and enjoyed The Lost Village. It was such a fun fantasy adventure film. I loved the way that version was a fantasy movie and it paid off. This one, though, the characters just didn't grow as it progressed. The movie had way too many plot points and elements, and it was a sloppy Smurf berry smoothie that was fed to Gargamel and his cat Azrael. It was just a mess. That's the best way to put it. It was a mess. And it was painful to watch this film as it got worse and worse at times. And another thing that I would say is that I actually do, in fact, love musicals. Some of my favorite movies of all time are musicals. You know, Mary Poppins, Robin Hood, Sound of Music, Singing in the Rain, Robin Hood, Cinderella, Little Mermaid, Tangled. I mean, I also love Don Bluth's animated film, Thumbelina. And I really love how those songs helped progress the story. And in this one, the songs didn't really progress the story as you're introduced to more and more music. And in all the songs, it just felt like an extremely long music video, and it felt even less of a Smurfs movie. And it really didn't feel like a Smurfs movie as you're introduced to more and more of the songs. I did like Smurfette's solo at the beginning of the film. I don't know where it is. And I even liked the solo by James Corden's character, No Name Smurf, in the first half of the film. I do not know what the name of that song was, but I liked those two. But I really loved the la 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 that we're introduced to at the beginning. And I think that's about it, because the other songs after that didn't progress the story, the characters that are introduced. And it, at least those ones, they gave their characters moments to shine, and you even are introduced to a little bit of character development. But as you're introduced to more and more songs, the songs didn't help the characters grow, and it started to feel like a music video more and more. And I think that was one of the biggest flaws of this film. The other thing is that I did enjoy the voice acting performances in this film, especially John Goodman as Papa Smurf. I really loved that they brought him on board as Papa Smurf. I thought that was really incredible that they did. And he was the best part of this film, in all honesty. But I also did like Kurt Russell. And there were times where I even enjoyed Rihanna as Smurfette in different times of this film. And I have to say that the voice acting cast in this film, including James Corden and even others that are in this film, I think they deserved a better Smurfs movie than than what they signed up for, and I think audiences deserved a better Smurfs movie because, let me tell you, Smurfs are something that I loved watching as a kid, and I even loved watching the version from the 80s. And I wouldn't even mind taking my kids to a new Smurfs movie if I had any. You know, I think they would enjoy it. But this one, this one was not a good film. It wasn't even a Smurfs movie. It was more of a music video. And I have to say that I did really enjoy the animation in this film, and I loved the animation that is in the Smurfs film, and the way they designed the characters. The animation was great, but the story was probably the biggest flaw in this film because it just falls apart. You know how you're watching a film and it feels like a mess, and there's just too many elements all jumbled together? This was one of them. And I honestly wish that we got a better Smurfs film because I love the Smurfs. I am a fan of the Smurfs too. And I have to say, this one is probably one of the worst films that I saw in theaters this year because it just wasn't a good film. I hate to be the one that doesn't like a movie at times because there's times where I really want to enjoy a film and there's times where we see a movie trailer and it's bad and then you watch the film and it's actually good. There's times where that actually does happen, but this was not one of those times, and and I didn't like the way they brought the Smurfs back in a film that didn't do them justice and didn't have the story that fans of the Smurfs would love, and even audiences. So I just kind of wanted to say my thoughts on that film and say that if you are wanting to show your kids any version of the Smurfs, please do go check out the Smurfs from the 1980s, including the film The Magic Flute, which was actually also produced by Peyo, who was the creator of the Smurfs. And a little fact is that the Smurfs were actually introduced to the public in 1958, but they had the resurgence through the 80s cartoon from Hanna-Barbera. So I definitely recommend you go check this out. And if you are in the mood for a remake, do give the 2011 one a chance, and the Smurfs 2 a chance. I mean, those are actually decent, and I think people do owe them an apology. And I also recommend checking out the Smurfs The Lost Village, especially if you're in the mood for like a fun time. Do go watch them, and see y'all later, Gators.